Hello, beautiful Scorpio family, and welcome to July 2020, a very interesting, energetic month. Let me just tell you right now, it is just full to the brim with like life, is actually the way I would describe it. Which, depending on how you feel about that, can be exciting or a little bit intimidating. Of course, I don't ever want people to feel intimidated. I want you to feel that you are empowered with the tools and the wisdom you need to sit with this. That's what I really focus on over on our Patreon, for example, where we really dive deep into these transits. But July is just a powerful month. Generally speaking, when I felt through Scorpio's energy and what you guys are all working on, I actually felt like a big sigh of lightness and relief. There is a sense of lightness, there is a sense of perspective and a sense of communication and an easing up of some of the heavier energies that have been kind of picking at you the last few months, because there's been some heavy hitting transits, including the Venus transit. Venus and Mercury, or Venus and Gemini, excuse me, is especially if you're a Scorpio rising, but still it's the relationship with Scorpio and Gemini is really interesting. Gemini for you all is 8th house, transformational, going underground. It's very much Scorpio energy, but that Venus going through there demands that we really shift how we see ourselves, how we value ourselves, how we move through the world, how we value our role in the world. It can take us to some heavy places. And during July, we're going to be noticing that Venus, she's in post shadow. And by the end of the month, she leaves that shadow phase. And so we're slowly but surely integrating everything that you were learning during that transit, whether consciously or unconsciously. It doesn't always have to do just with relationships to other people. Venus retrograde can absolutely deeply affect how we relate to ourselves. So that's easing up. Also, starting on July 1st, right away, Saturn moves back to Capricorn. Now, it's been dabbling in Aquarius the last few months, and we've been getting a taste of that revolutionary spirit that comes with Saturn in Aquarius. It's pretty powerful. Now we're going back to where Saturn has been for the last few years. Now, this is an interesting point because we've learned a lot about what Saturn in Capricorn does. It has some beautiful things, some focused things, some clear things. It also has been teaching us about the shadow side of control, constriction, authoritarianism, consolidation of power, right? And so when we meet back here with Saturn moving into Capricorn, we're not where we were. Like, we're somewhere different now than we were in March. I think we can all agree on that. And we're looking at this energy with new eyes. So even though we're returning to something that we've been in for a little while, it's not the same game. And this is only going to be in play until December, when Saturn moves back into Aquarius, and so does Jupiter. And then really by the end of this year, the only planet left in Capricorn is Pluto. So we are slowly but surely starting to work our way out of the Capricorn lessons. Now, as we go back to it, I think this is actually really supportive energy for you. Saturn being in Capricorn, it helps you strengthen your voice and what you're really wanting to share. Now, this is also happening very close to the full moon in Capricorn and partial lunar eclipse. Now, this is one of those last eclipses in Capricorn from the lessons we were learning with the south node of the moon in Capricorn. And so we are getting kind of a cleansing almost, a clearing. There is this clearing lightning energy for for Scorpios specifically that I've really felt here. So that first week of July is powerful. It's just really powerful. It's kind of like shaking the ground a little bit and checking for any old ways, shaking out the rugs, so to speak, Chiron is going retrograde in your 6th house, how you take care of your body. So this is going to be a really healing next 6 months for you, a really great time to connect with your physical body. Queen of Pentacles wanted to come right out for that conversation. Scorpio, you all are very healing people. When you're really activated in your full power, that's one of the big things you can do. You can heal a lot of other people. You can hold space for other people. You can really connect in actually with the healing process. The Devil and Ten of Swords. Wow. Okay. Hello. Yeah, we're going to be talking about this. There's some freedom seeking going on here. There's some freeing going on here. Okay. Once again, as we ease up out of some of the heavier energy for Scorpios, there's also an understanding that you no longer have to put yourself in the same position. Page of Pentacles. Okay, we got so much earthy energy here. A lot of grounding going on for you all. Now, the other thing going on this month is that Cancer season is here. One of my favorite times of year for sure. Oh my goodness. Love Cancer season. This has everything to do with your big vision, your big, bold, long-term vision, the ability to zoom out and see it all in its massive glory. Scorpios, I think you like to do this anyway. I think you like to go explore. Six of Cups. And, you know, we have the first half of this month, we have a Mercury retrograde in Cancer in your 9th house, right? And it closes out on July 12th, and then we have post-shadow basically the rest of July. Temperance, all right, there's that big picture energy. And so this is a review time for your big vision of who you're going to be. So there's this transformational thing. There's this closeout of this big transformational transit with Venus retrograde, with Saturn visiting Aquarius. Those are all easing up. And now you're reviewing, okay, who am I now at the end of that process? And Two of Pentacles. Who am I now at the end of that process? Who am I going to be? What masks am I going to be wearing or not wearing? What roles and costumes am I going to be putting on or not putting on? Okay. And so Cancer season's very supportive of you all. It helps you tap into your intuitive knowing, into your big expanded vision knowing. And then of course, as we get into Leo season, Leo has an interesting connection with you as well, another fixed sign energy. So on the 22nd, when the sun moves into Leo, you're also getting hits of energy about who you are in this world, what you want to share in this world. And this could be a huge month for you to actually have some very surprising input about who it is you want to be in your relationships, in the work you do in the world, and just in that bigger expanded perception of who you're going to be over the next few years. You know, I think this has been such an interesting time of evolution. And while many of us have gotten surprising inputs about what's next and how we're going to do it, most of us, even with those surprising inputs, already knew some of these things that were within us, and we're just getting to see them a little bit more clearly and activate them more boldly and with more compassion for ourselves and for others. Okay, so let's talk through this because, yes, there is this sense that there has been a skin shedding, that there has been a huge change in who you are and how you perceive yourself. And July may feel a little bit like you're popping out of that cocoon. You know, we start with two very grounded, careful energies. You know, these both kind of want to take their time and look around. They want to feel through their body. They want to, you know, stick to a routine. The Queen of Pentacles is, of course, a very nurturing energy. You know, she's very like, when we self-mother, you know, we make sure our routines are good. We make sure we don't self-abandon in what we eat or how we sleep, right? She very much wants us to show up for our physical bodies. The Devil, on the other hand, is a little bit of the scary dad, right? Mom and dad here. The Devil has a lot to do with where we feel imprisoned within our routines, right? So this is about where we feel great, where that just makes us feel like, okay, I'm grounded enough that I can be, you know, in my psychic experience of things and my intuitive, deeply knowing experience of things. I feel anchored enough to like feel like it's sustainable and it's not going to burn out my fuses. And the Devil is more of like what is holding you and making you feel like you are trapped. So there's a bit of a dialogue going on here and assessing out what that is. Now, I think Saturn returning to Capricorn and the full moon and partial lunar eclipse and the closeout of eclipse season in Capricorn, both of those events are going to help you see with clarity what it is that this heavier Devil energy is that's feeling like a little bit of a prison, a little bit like a shackle. You know, often when I look at the Devil, I think about how it's tied to the Lover's card. And the Lovers here started off in an agreement, in a situation that have slowly became shackles, right? And it doesn't have to be a relationship. This often happens. You know, things that serve us one year can slowly become a shackle that does not longer serve us. And even if we put the pros on a piece of paper and say, but these are all the reasons why I should want to keep doing things the same way, it still doesn't feel right. So this is a time to, you're going to be getting feedback. And that's where the Ten of Swords comes in, because this is the close of a cycle. And I have to say, there's been a lot of this energy this month for people. We're all kind of going through this. So most of us are experiencing some kind of close of a cycle, some kind of close out of who we've been. And, yes, this is a graphic card and it's intense. It's the end of a cycle, though. It's kind of where we really see something, right, for what it is, and there's nothing left to do. Now, Ten of Swords is also our intellectual mind, right? So whenever Swords comes up, it's not as literal as it sometimes appears to be. This is all about how we use our thoughts, right? It's how we talk to ourselves. And the Ten of Swords is often the closeout, the final chapter in a cycle of how we've been thinking of ourselves, how we've been envisioning ourselves. The mythology of who we are in the world is closing out. And this is where I'm saying Leo season is really powerful for you, because you can be activating a really powerful version of yourself coming into the world during July, as July unfolds, and continuing into August, actually. In fact, when I look at like the way that these three cards come out together, Devil, Ten of Swords, Page of Pentacles, what I see there is like Devil's very heavy energy. It's learning energy, it's hard energy. We have a closeout, a death, a skin shedding, change of identity. And we have the Page of Pentacles, which is really fresh, bright, playful, curious energy, connected to your body, feeling energized, feeling doors opening, feeling like you're understood, feeling like you can speak what's true for you and you can share of your gifts and talents, feeling like re-energized. And I do think the first half of this month you may be feeling some of these big shifts where some days you're going to feel a little bit heavier and slower, and some days you're going to feel that big lift of energy. I think especially once the Mercury retrograde closes out, we're all going to be able to take a bit of a breath there. Now, there is something going on with healing here. I will say this. The last three cards are all cards of balance. They all have a theme of balance and calibration. Six of Cups, Temperance, and Two of Pentacles. This is a really interesting message. Now, the message that comes through here for me is codependence. It doesn't just have to be with a person. This can be with who we think we need to be or our routine. Now, the Six of Cups. Cancer season never fails to take us to some deep places in who we are. And this is a very sentimental, loving card. This is also a card tied to deja vu and nostalgia and the past and who we've been in other years. You may be getting visitations from versions of yourself and feeling through those, feeling through what still feels true for you. And that's where Temperance comes in. Now, Temperance is the big worldview. It's also an alchemy card. It's also a divine grace healing card. It's also about recalibrating our scales, right? Taking a very hot substance that can scald us, that doesn't create magic, and cooling it with some water from the river of life in order for us to live a full and meaningful existence. We don't always have to rake ourselves over the coals or keep ourselves chained to something in order to have value, right? In fact, we dim our light when we keep ourselves chained to something. So where the Devil teaches us that lesson of what feels heavy when it has transformed into something that's no longer serving, we come into Temperance, which is where we come back to understand who we really are and to cool those parts of ourselves that want to go to extremes in order to live a life of meaning, right? And the Two of Pentacles is an interesting last card, right? Twos are often about a fork in the road or a decision or a feeling like there is something that splits off and we choose something else, right? Two of Pentacles is maybe one of the most indecisive of the energies. It's kind of like, ooh, what do I pick up? And the thing with Two of Pentacles that I always notice is that this is where the identities we think we're meant to have. Now, we talked about this a little bit in June, I know, about, just being who you are and feeling free to do that. And the Two of Pentacles is a continuation of that theme a little bit, right? Like maybe you feel you have to put on that costume, right, in order to be acceptable in the world, in order to not feel like an alien in the world, or to feel as though you are allowed to be. But the Two of Pentacles is inviting here, you know, you may continue to feel that as you get bolder in being who you are in the world. And that is okay to feel that, you know. Also, this month, you may just be finding that there is a part of you that's just wanting to kind of observe what's going on around you. And to be really clear on what feels good and what feels light and what feels heavy, right? It's this constant weighing and balancing, constant tempering of what's really working for you. And you know, it is kind of like being in an alchemy lab. I think creating magic in our lives is about, it's about all these little details in the way we create alchemy in our day-to-day lives, in the way that we approach our routines, in the way that we approach how we do the smallest of things, doing the dishes, waking up in the morning, connecting with our bodies. Everything is kind of an interesting ritual. And this is where we often get springboarded into that bigger, bolder 9th, 10th house, zoomed out, big world vision energy. So you're being invited to use your body and your rituals as a way to activate that more clearly at this time. I'm really loving the energy for you here, though. There's a lot of healing. There's a lot of lightening up of the energy. There's a lot of being asked to self-trust here. You got to trust yourself this month, I think. Powerful, powerful times. I would love to see you over on Patreon. We are going to be diving deep on Saturn. I have a lot to talk about with that, and this final eclipse as well. It's a great resource, really affordable, a really great way to get to know me a little bit better and to have a beautiful, loving community of amazing people. If you're already over there, you know what I'm talking about. Thank you so much for being there. I would love to see you over on Patreon. You can also find me on my Instagram and my website at Sarah Verba, and you can find PinkLune's gorgeous jewelry on her Etsy shop. I will see you all in August for the continuation of Leo season, and I hope you all have a beautiful July. Take such good care of yourselves during these powerful ripples of energy, and I'm sending you all my love.